Hello, everybody. We are live. We are live. And I'm listening to the soothing sounds of CHU Canada time signal. Ain't that pretty? Some things I know why it's dark. One, if the lights is not. Wait a minute, guys. Something's not right. And this is better. One of the lights wasn't right. Okay. I think we can all start the show. It's perfect. Hey, welcome everyone. Hope everybody's all right. This is another show for your enjoyment. And hope that you will enjoy today. You can hear CHU. Charity X milestone. 240 subscribers. Congratulations. Continue. Let me just remove the chat from here and put the chat over here and unpin here so I can follow that like this. Oops, that's not what I want. And I think we are ready to start. Hey everyone, welcome aboard. This is another Shortwave radio show. We are live twice a week on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That's 0 hours Universal Time. That's why you see Universal Time over here. And we are on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, 20 hours Universal Time. We talk about radio, mostly what's below 30 megahertz, but we also talk about anything radio in general and all sorts of other things. Sometimes astronomy, sometimes whatever comes to mind, we just go around. We tune the bands. I'm using a SDR Play RSPDX with SDR Uno software here, plugged with my MLA30 loop antenna outside. And of course, my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. We are, of course, entertaining you for another show. Apparently, this has been going on for a number of years. Can't remember. 2014, I believe, the first time. 2013, 2014. I'm trying to remember. Anyways, many years now. And of course, hope that you enjoyed the show today. I had one beer left of the Creemore Springs, but it's warm. It's warm, and I decided that let's just have a vodka and cranberry juice. So cheers, everybody, and hope that you enjoy your favorite drink, whatever it is, and that you enjoy today's show. Man, so time is going fast. I'm in this, this time warp in the past week. I got to say one thing. One of the things I've been doing in the evening is mostly where I get bored, and especially when, radio isn't that great. What I've been doing lately is playing Halo Reach, killing aliens on my PC, and watching some stuff on Netflix. I got to say that did make my evenings go a little faster, a lot faster, in fact. So I've been doing that. But, we've been, of course, tuning the bands, lots of stuff. I need to make More videos about radio, and tomorrow we'll try to make more of them. Hope that you enjoy our live shows and that it will make you forget whatever's happening outside with a certain virus. Apparently, I don't know. Heard something about that. Who knows? And hope that you will enjoy the show tonight. We have a beautiful chat room with people from all around the world watching on, of course, and chatting along in the chat. So it's kind of cool. Great people that are polite and easygoing and fun. It's really, really nice, and really, really nice to have you all here. You can join in if you have a Gmail account. And if you like to chat and like to continue to party, have fun with other great people, well, there's a Facebook group, which is the really beautiful place where all of this continues, where I share what I'm listening to, radio videos and pictures and all sorts of things. So you can join the official SWL channel Facebook group. That is where we continue, and people are polite and fun, and really, really, it's a great place to be. So really, really nice to have all of this happening. And we're at what, 720, 700, like 700 and close to 730 people in the Facebook group, which is really nice for a group that's been open only for a few months now, at the beginning of the year, actually. So hope you enjoy the show today. It's always fun to be here. Remember, I'm always late in the chat room. So if you say hi, I'll say hi back. Absolutely. Just need to be patient. We have Bobby Burgess, WA5107 in Morgan City, Louisiana. Hey there. Mark Cope from Dallas, Texas, WA5153 SWL. Rick, W8PRR in Ohio, WOHP 1390. Pablo, nice to have you here from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Mr. Simba, nice to have you on board, my friend. The RadioWow lacks higher frequency response. So it might sound like better audio in a way, but it also sometimes is a little too low frequency. It depends on what you're listening to, and it depends what you like also. But definitely the RadioWow receiver has less high frequency response for sure. I never, since I don't own a PL 880, I don't know how it sounds, but I easily can see that the RadioWow sounds deeper. That's for sure. What else do we have? Matt, nice to have you here. MDK2 in Colorado. Mike Hill, nice to have you here from Fayetteville, Arkansas. WDX50 from Rainy, Arkansas. Eyebrawler, nice to have you here from Arkansas. Larry from Georgia, nice to have you here. Old Radio Man, nice to have you on board. And he hears Woodstock playing in the background. Joe Rotman, nice to have you here from Chicago. Jerry DX, nice to have you on board. Alme Sam, good evening. Terry Cook, KF7BQ in Western Montana. Arthur's Auto Crafter's Kitchen from Massachusetts. John Doe, nice to have you here. Roberto Rojas, nice to have you on board, my friend. Nice to have you here. Kema Hain, nice to have you on board from Yokohama, Japan, where it's Thursday morning, I guess. What time is it in Yokohama? I'm sure it's morning or late morning. Manny CV, nice to have you here. Brian Penny from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Nice to have you on board. Pretty cool. I was looking at pirate stations, if any pirates were on. So Jerry DX, happy to hit the milestone of 240 subscribers. I passed the 20,000 mark on this channel. So kind of cool. Northern Dawn, nice to have you here, my friend. Fast Eddie, V3KRP, nice to have you on board, my friend from Thunder Bay, Ontario. BX TTLE. Nice to have you here from Norway. Pretty cool. We have a Nordic country where it's much later than here in Montreal. Bobby Burgess, yes, just sit back and relax. Absolutely. Rufus Newt from the Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Bill, nice to have you here from Hallandale Beach, Florida. Danilo Nonato from Brazil. XN80Xer Keegan, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas with his Ethon Grundig Edition Field BT radio and his Ethon Grundig Edition satellite with SSB. David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you here, my friend. 45 unit, nice to have you on board. The rock star of the shortwave radio waves. Roberto Rojas, nice to have you here from Argentina. ¿Cómo está, mi amigo? James Farley, nice to have you here. Tom DXer from Hudson Valley, New York. Northern Dawn says, been playing some Skyrim in the evening to pass time. Yeah. Aaron Kaser, nice to have you here, my friend. James Powers, nice to have you on board from New Hampshire, KC1ENJ. Morrison AV, nice to have you on board. And Polite Dave in Florida. WF5BL, nice to have you on board from muggy and humid Central Texas. Russ Gladden, nice to have you here from Ottawa. Pretty cool to have everybody on board. Joe Sombranuas, nice to have you here from Brazil. John Doe says, I recommend you reading Alan Wiener's memoir, Access to the Airwaves, published in 1997. Used copies on Amazon. You have to check that out. 9:08 in the morning in Yokohama, Japan. Wow. That's early morning, so you're having your tea, coffee, or just breakfast and watching the show from Thursday morning. Cool. Amy Sam says, picking up FC8 from FT8 mode from Czech Republic and Croatia on 40 meters in Central Ohio. Cool. ETI TV, nice to have you on board from the western edge of the Daniel Boone National Forest. Oh man, Daniel Boone. I remember watching that as a kid. They had a French Quebecois version of it. Oh man. Rob, nice to have you here from Phoenix, Arizona. Sergio Cordero, nice to have you on board from Mexico. Vince, salut, bienvenue, mon ami. Toujours un plaisir. And what else do we have? Jeff King, nice to have you on board. Yeah, with Fess Parker, absolutely. Long time ago. I still have the song in my... they even had translated the song, actually, which was something that they would do back then. Today, when there's a show, what they do is they keep the English song and they just translate to the show itself when it's a American show. But back then, they would even translate the songs. So they would have a French version of the Daniel Boone intro song. Still remember that when he throws that axe and the tree just breaks in half. That reminds me of when I was young, because I've seen Daniel Boone, I don't know, and like I was not even a teenager. I was like maybe 8, 9, 10 years old. And my parents would watch that on TV. It was crazy. Arthur's Autocrafter's Kitchen. I have a Grundig Satellite 800 that I left cheap batteries in and they leaked. Clean out battery compartment, tried fresh batteries and AC. Clock flashes, no radio, 24-hour, no power reset. I would suspect. So first of all, make sure that you cleaned out the battery compartment real well so that the contact of the batteries are good, because that's always the first thing. For the rest, maybe you'll have to open it, because leaky batteries are very corrosive. So if the batteries leaked, it's possible that it damaged inside the radio itself, some of the contacts. So that's something you'll have to check out because that is a possibility. I've had my share of leaked batteries in radios over the years. Very often had a was lucky enough that the way the radio was positioned, the batteries most of the time never leaked in the radio itself. But it definitely is possible that the batteries leaked some chemicals within the circuit inside, and that could be a bad thing, unfortunately. It all happens to us, we never leave batteries inside, even the good batteries, even if it's not cheap batteries, 'cause of course cheap batteries tend to leak more. I've had my share of cheap batteries leaking all the time. But even good batteries like Duracell, you never leave them in anything because they could leak. I've had Duracells and Energizer batteries leak in devices over the years, so you got to be careful not to leave them inside. That's why I also like using rechargeables, because thanks to rechargeables don't generally leak unless they have a faulty or a big problem. Rechargeables never leak, so it's like you can leave them in the radio or in the device you're using and not worry about having a leak problem. Imagine with all the radios I've got here, one of the things that happened over the years is that, of course, I don't have enough rechargeables for all of the radios. So over the years, I've had my share of radios on the shelf that had, some of them had rechargeables and some of them had alkaline. Especially when sometimes I didn't have any rechargeable, they were in different other radios, so I didn't have them ready or they weren't charged. When you get the radio for the first time and you want to test it out, one of the things that happened is you put in alkaline batteries, and that happened so often that I actually just forgot and left them there. And then you look at a radio you haven't touched in 6 months, and then you realize that the batteries leaked, which is disgusting and gooey and very, very corrosive. So hope that you can actually do something. The worst that can be, so make sure that you not just cleaned out the battery compartment, but when the battery compartment, I hope you actually removed the casing to really have access to the contacts where the batteries are, because you're saying that the clock is blinking, which tends to tell me that there's power, but maybe there's not enough power because the spring for the negative and the contact at the positive, they could be corroded, and you might need to use sandpaper or something that is a little harsh to really clean out and remove all of because the metal has probably corroded, which is usually what happens immediately. So by making sure that you use the sandpaper on the metal of the battery contacts to make sure that the maximum amount of power is there, I have seen over time that one of the things that happen is that the where the contacts are, there's still not enough contact for the radio, for example, to turn on. It's because there's too much resistance. But it's not enough to prevent, for example, the clock of the radio to work, because the clock doesn't take a lot of power. It runs on very, very little milliamps. So make sure that you also have really, really clean the contacts properly, so that when the batteries are in, that the full power of the battery goes through the circuit. That's something in it. Make sure that you look at, because that happened to me a few times. You can use sandpaper. You can use You can use anything that's a little kind of rough to make sure that you bring the contacts back to life. Mr. Simba. Oh, the PL380. Okay. PL380. Well, it's a different sound, that's for sure. I like the PL380 sound better. Personally, it is tinny if you compare it to the radio out, but it is. And if you want to hear real tinny sound, C Crane Skywave SSB. That's tinny. That is, I should make PL380 and Skywave SSB compare videos. You will hear immediately that Skywave is much more tinny than the PL380 is actually. And remember, in the PL380, you can change the filters, so you can, instead of using 6 kilohertz, you can use 4 or 3 kilohertz. That will actually remove some of the high frequencies at the same time. Eamon O'Doherty, nice to have you here from Glasgow, Scotland. Pretty cool. What else do we have? D Matthews 87, nice to have you on board from Northwest England. Dave M7MVD WF7I, nice to have you on board, my friend from Virginia. Nice weather for an evening walk. Cool. Here it's cold. We actually woke up with some snow this morning, so it's crazy. Kimahane, what's the name of the radio show that you do? Is it available on podcast? Yes. It's the International Radio Report that I do with Sheldon Harvey. And you can go to ckut.ca. There's the archived show for the last 3 months over there. ckut.ca. And it's International Radio Report. It's on Sunday at 14:30 UTC. That's 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time here in Montreal. James Farley, did you get a K180 yet? Nope, not yet. It's shipped, so I should get it at some point, but not yet. I've also ordered this thing that I'm going to show you here. So if you guys, I was curious, HRD 737. I have ordered this Anrongda wideband receiver, and apparently I have it here on. So let me just check it out here. If I can show you a real picture that looks good. So here it is. So the Anrongda portable receiver, that is a wideband radio. It covers AM, FM, shortwave, CB, airband, and it's a VHF receiver up to 230 megahertz. So they call it a wideband receiver. So this is a wide frequency receiver. So this is, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I was looking at it the other day and thought, let's try it out and see if it works. Simplio, nice to have you here, my friend. And Scott Robson, nice to have you on board. K6AUS. David, KJ4CMY, says, I remember listening to Quebec Rock Station when I lived in upstate New York. I heard French songs to current English language songs, which I had recorded. Yeah, there are some that were translated, absolutely. There's a lot of the English songs that were sang by popular Quebec or French artists in French. That reminds me of the good old days as a teenager listening to shortwave, and I still remember listening to Radio Japan, and that is somewhere in 1985, 86 ish, and I remember hearing Billie Jean by Michael Jackson sang in Japanese, which was very unusual. David Snyder, nice to have you on board. WHRI, really weak tonight with Voice of Vietnam, which is right now. Let me check it out here. 7315 is pretty good here. Pretty good here. With some Vietnamese music. So Voice of Vietnam via WHRI on 7315. Hearing it well. May Sam says, that's how I lost my Kato KA1103. Batteries leaked. That's sad. That is sad. Miki Delmage, nice to have you on board from a summer like Sherwood Park, Alberta, where here in Montreal, it's a winter like Montreal. It was all white this morning. I was actually watching, I was thinking about you yesterday evening. I was watching a video of the Weather Channel. And they were mentioning how we are blocked in a cold weather pattern here. And they were saying how that weather pattern that blocks the cold air here is actually making you guys give some really warm weather. So, Simply, my ZTE's battery developed a bulge. Battery met the dumpster fast. Yeah, I guess. Arthur's Other Crafter says, opening the set is a nightmare. I did clean battery contacts with deoxit, but I do have the same issue with AC adapter. Okay. Well, if you have the same issue, that means the batteries leaked within the circuit. And I can imagine opening that radio must be a tough one, for sure. All of these big radios often are, you got to be careful and check it out for sure. Before you open them, because they're really, really tough, and you got to know how to open it. Find the maybe you already have it, but to find the service manual online. That's going to help you out in opening it and making sure that you're doing things right. So that is sad, because that is a darn good radio and expensive radio too. So it's sad to know that you are. That you might have damaged that radio. But take the time to open it, because you never know. Sometimes it's not that difficult. It depends how bad the leak was. Man, I hate that. It's so disgusting when the batteries leak. It's just crazy disgusting. Mike Hill says, better go check his Satellite 800. Have batteries in there. Thought I'd have it connected via power cable. Yeah, be careful. Clark Gilson from Southwest Wisconsin. Nice to have you here. Yeah, the batteries. Yeah, cheap batteries. Those are the worsts. Those are the worsts. William Moser. Nice to have you here. Zanzibar. Nice to have you on board. Zanzibar. What's good? What? Simon Templar. Nice to have you here. Sherry DX, I got some Energizer lithium batteries, and they claim on the box that they are leak proof. Lithium batteries are different, so they might be different in leak. I have no experience with the lithium batteries, so I don't know on what, because what happens. So you guys wonder why batteries leak. There's several things that happen with them. Do I have a battery here? I had a battery that was here like for days and days, and now it's not there anymore. So I guess I don't have any batteries. But anyways, so the battery, alkaline batteries, what they do is that there's the canister, And inside, of course, is a mix of electrolytes that, of course, all together make the battery give power by a chemical reaction. That chemical reaction actually does two things. It creates a byproduct that actually will accumulate in the battery over time. So what happens is, as the battery drains, sometimes the pressure inside it actually goes up. Now, they are designed to be capable of holding that pressure most of the time. But a lot of batteries, what they do is that the outermost metal canister is also used. It's part of the circuit. It's one of the electrodes. So that canister, as it sheds electrons as you're using the radio or the devices, gets thinner and thinner over time. So at some point, it can be thin enough that it actually creates a hole or will break a seal. So that is something that can happen. And of course, cheap batteries are, by design, cheaply designed. So they have thinner metal canisters and are less capable of holding all that pressure inside from the byproducts of the battery. So that's why they leak. And when they leak, that leak is very corrosive. It actually destroys contacts and is really, really bad for any electronic device. And actually, if you look at the contacts, it doesn't take long for the contacts to become super corroded from that gooey, disgusting substance coming out of the batteries. But for lithium batteries, I don't know. The lithium batteries that they sell, I don't know up to what point they are. Because I mean, we got to be careful because they do, like Duracell has their alkaline batteries that say they're leak proof. Yeah, but there's that little fine print. Yeah, leak proof, my ass. Be careful. I think the best thing to do is to simply follow the rule that if you know you're not going to use a radio or a device in a long time, remove the batteries. And even if they're rechargeables anyways, because even analoopes and batteries that keep their charge still discharge slightly. So as time goes by, even the rechargeable batteries slowly lose some power because they slowly leak the power. And I'm not talking leaking the battery, but there's a slight consumption of electricity because of the internal resistance. Plus the fact that most radios have clocks on them, so there's always a little very small current drain on the batteries because of the clock. So if you're not using a radio for months at a time, if you're going to, put the radio on the shelf and probably won't be using it for a while, remove the batteries, whatever battery is inside. And, that's kind of your fail safe in case something happens. James Farley, 7315 S9 plus 40 New Jersey. Artist Ollie Crafter says, I have so many radios. I should look into solar power. So it seems isolated to the compartment. Check the contacts. Check the electrical contacts. Because usually even the power connector is somehow related, plugged in a way to the battery compartment. So make sure that you look into that also, that there's no more, maybe there's some corrosion where you haven't seen it yet. Donald Hosmer, nice to have you here. W8SWL in northern Michigan. 36 degrees and cold, pretty much like here. It's 1 degree Celsius, which is like 33 or 34 Fahrenheit. John McClure, nice to have you here. Almay San says, FD8 from Kuwait. Cool. Roger Schultz, I would like to thank you, sir, for your great videos. Thank you very much, my friend. And I hope that they are helpful. That's what I'm trying to do. Aaron Kaiser, take care, my friend. Jason Stafford, nice to have you here from Western Oregon. Hope you're well. Saw a funny comment the other day. Al Steele looks like you have two tums on this video already from Australia. Cool. Simply, bulging batteries causes pressure against the circuitry. Yeah, that could be, especially on very tight. Today they are so they want to save money, so everything is very, very, very tight. So that can do things absolutely. Other side of crafters, sandpapering the contacts. Sandpapering the contacts, but the AC adapter still has same issue. Make me wonder about the theory. Try it still. Kind of interesting. Your clock is on, so the power, there's some power there. Huh. Because the AC adapter often in these radios is really, really rigged closely to the battery compartment in some way. So, I don't know. What else do we have? James Farley says pencil eraser works too. Simplio says agree. Use pencil eraser. Really? I gotta try it. I gotta try that. So pencil eraser on contacts. Huh. Yeah, bulging lithium batteries is a bad thing. Kevin Wood, nice to have you on board from Nova Scotia. Rick Saturn, nice to have you here. Michael Aquarium, nice to have you here. Roger Schultz, KE4BFJ. Would like to thank you for all your videos. Thank you very much, my friend. Rufus Newt says going to be -10 tonight with a wind chill of -17. It's supposed to be April, yeah, and it is cold because they were saying that here in the northern part of the province of Quebec, there are some cities that reached -30 Celsius a couple of days ago, which is breaking records because it is really cold even over there where technically, we are late April now. We should be having, I think the temperature today, the normal temperature is like 14 Celsius, which is in the 50s. We barely got above 32. It is really cold for this time of year. And I'm tired because, it's not bad enough that we are confined. It has to be, cold and disgusting. Paul the cat, it was just so funny because Paul the cat last night wanted, he's, of course, no more snow on the ground, so he's used to going out at like 5 a.m. So he wakes me up with his little paw on my nose and says, it's like meow meow, so let's go outside. So I just open the door, he goes outside, go back to bed, And when I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning, I was like, this is weird. It's kind of bright outside. And I look and it's white everywhere and it's super windy. And I said, Paul, I don't think you're going to go out today. I opened the door. He looked outside. There was a wind gust. He ran back inside. I said, told you, you're not going to go out this night. Northern Dawn. Yep. There's a few reviews, but I like to do my own reviews and my own take on them. Let's see how it performs. Alme Sound doesn't have a 40-meter antenna to transmit. Being stuck in the apartment, I do have an old 20 to 10-meter isoloop. I've been able to make contact with it. Jason Safford says, I have the Aronga AM/FM only radio. I listen on every night. Super small and rechargeable. I was curious. I was really, really curious, so I decided to buy it and test it out on the channel. I can't wait to get my K180 WLA antenna. That's something I'm going to try. I'm going to remove the W6 LVP loop and install that at its place. It's going to be interesting to test those antennas for sure. Kimberly in California, K6YYL. Nice to have you here. Drinking Grolsch Premium Lager. I haven't had Grolsch in a long time. I remember drinking Grolsch a lot at one point in a couple of years back, because the karaoke bar that I go to had a contest. So you could have you could win a T-shirt, a Grolsch T-shirt, and there were different prizes that you can actually get from that. So it was like crazy. How many son misses listening to HCJB? Yeah, the good old days of HCJB when they had some interesting programming. I mean, you could still listen in to 6050. Let's just check it out right now if it's coming in. 6050 from Quito, Ecuador. It's there. It's not very strong. It's there tonight. I'm hearing it. Not super strong, but 6050. The only frequency left from Quito, Ecuador. So sometimes comes better than this. But unfortunately, DHCJB we all know and listened to in the past is gone, unfortunately. I'm scanning my QSL cards and I'm going through a lot of HCJB QSL cards, and boy, nothing like like viewing your QSL collection to kind of put you back nostalgic of the good old days. It's crazy. So it's some of those. I was looking today. I was Swiss Radio International QSL cards. That also was like, wow, Swiss Radio International, just crazy. There was I scanned a few. It was from 1987, 86. And it shows the how the solar cycles were stronger back then, because I was listening to them on the 13 meter band. One of the QSLs I got is from like 14 UTC, and it's 21630 or something like that, the frequency on the QSL. It's like that, radio RSA QSL I've got that's on 25790, 11 meter band. That's another time and another strong solar cycle, I can tell you that. Pretty crazy. If it's not getting a little, yeah, you're technically, so WHRI is in Cypress Creek, South Carolina. You're closer to WHRI. Wait, WHRI is in, let me just, I don't want to say things that aren't right. So WHRI shortwave in Cypress Creek. That's what I'm about WHRI. Okay. So WHRI in Noblesville, Indiana. Okay, here we go. I was in the wrong place. I thought I'm mixing it with another station. So WHRI is in Noblesville, Indiana. So I don't know the distance. A lot of. Oh wait, in June 2004, shortwave facilities. Okay, were in the world located in Cypress Creek, South Carolina, and now they operate from Cypress Creek. Okay, I got it right. So I wasn't wrong. So they closed the facilities in Noblesville and Maine. Okay. So WHRI is in Cypress Creek, South Carolina. I was right. Okay, so that is technically closer to you. So maybe the signal, some of the signal is actually, jumping over you. You're in that zone where you don't hear it as well. I'm further away, so it's possible that that's why I'm hearing it better. It's like WBCQ. Here, WBCQ is a tough one because the signal is, I'm in that dead zone. Signal is just jumping over me. Kevin, what is VE1 TV? Nova Scotia with root beer. Cool. What else do we have? Mike Hill, Eneloop rechargeable batteries, which work well. There's the crafters got the service manual. Okay. That's why the I remember I always went mad when radios or devices. I remember a what was it? I think it was a monitor. I had a Commodore monitor, and I wanted to see if I could fix it myself. And I remember that the hole where the screw was so deep. I had all the screwdrivers in the world. Never did I have one long enough to reach there. It was like, okay, I'm gonna have to buy a screwdriver just to open this thing. And after a while, I was like, I'm gonna put it in the garbage. What else do we have? Simply, lead acid byproduct is that ugly sludge that causes the battery to weaken too. Yep. Vanadium. Are you able to pick up Cuban radio where you live? Would you have to drive outside the city to be able to pick up Cuban signals? Nope. Radio van at Cuba is coming in usually really well. And right now, I probably hear Radio Rebelde 5025. Yeah, pretty good signal from Radio Rebelde. And Radio Havana Cuba 5040 also coming in really, really well from Cuba. So these are really strong signals up here in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Jeff King, some radio makers warn against using lithium batteries. C. Crane does, and other companies also warn against using them in sophisticated electronics. Because I believe some of the lithium-ion batteries are a little different in the voltage. Mike Hill, yes, I think I do believe when you plug it in, the batteries will charge in it. One of the biggest problems with that, and this is where I would say I would rant against these radios charging. So most of them have a charging timer circuit. So what they do is you plug it in, and they will charge for a certain amount of time and then stop. And it's fine for batteries that are rated at the milliamps that the radio wants, but it's not fine for batteries that have higher milliamps. So an example of that is Texan receivers that come already with the 1000 milliamp hour NIMH batteries. Those charge fine within the radio. But if you buy Eneloops, for example, that are rated at more than 2000 milliamps, they don't get charged enough because the radio stops charging after an amount of time rather than stopping the charge when the radio is charged. So I almost never use the charging capabilities of the radios. I have 3 outboard chargers that I plug in the wall. I've got one that is a intelligent charger, typically takes 5 hours. One that is a straight up charger that is just a timer. So, and you know what? It might be interesting to talk about this a little bit because a lot of you are using rechargeable batteries. And one of the things that happens is you've got out there different chargers that you can purchase. And I've got 3 different chargers here, okay? So I've got a intelligent charger, I've got a fast charger, and I've got a kind of a, I would call it a timer charger. And here's the difference, and I'm going to explain it a little more. So what I call the timer charger is that thing charges for I think it's 5 hours. It's a fixed charging time, and it is what's called a fast charger. Typically, it gives 300 milliamps to the battery, so it's a lot of current. And after the 5 hours, it doesn't stop the charge. It falls down to what we call a trickle charge. That means it's just enough to maintain the battery. So that charger, whatever the battery you put in, it charges the battery. And I'll give you the positive and the negative of that. Is the negative is because it doesn't really check the battery. If you put in batteries that are already half charged, because it's a timer, it typically can overcharge the batteries, which damages the batteries, and they don't, have enough. If you charge batteries too much all the time, overcharging batteries means the batteries will not hold the charge as long and will not recharge as many times as it's supposed to. So you got to be careful with these types. But there's a positive side to these types of chargers. And it's when the batteries actually get older, they tend to have higher resistance in them. And intelligent chargers will stop charging them. Well, they're just going to tell you the battery's bad. But the problem is the battery isn't necessarily bad to a point where it can't charge. So, for example, I've got RadioShack rechargeables here that are about 10 years old. And 10 years old for rechargeable batteries is a long time. Typically, when they give you ratings for batteries, they tell you it's up to 1,000 charge or 5 years. They'll put both ratings on it. So they'll say up to 5 years or up to 1,000 recharge. And by the way, don't get 1,000 recharge. You're never going to get 1,000 recharge of any batteries. That's kind of baloney. You'll get several hundred recharges, yes, but you'll never at 1,000. You'll recycle the battery before it reaches the 1,000 charge. So those RadioShack batteries that I have, if I put them in my intelligent charger, I have a little red blinking light. That's the charger telling me, no, these batteries aren't good. I can't charge that. Because intelligent chargers use a circuit that analyzes the battery before it starts its charge. And that analyzing of the battery does a few things. First of all, it checks how much power it already has. So if it sees that it's half charged already, it's not going to charge the same amount of time. It is variable. But also, it gives kind of a state of the battery itself. So what happens is after several dozens or even a couple of 100 charges, most intelligent chargers are just going to say, oh, the battery's bad. Problem is, the battery still recharges. It's just that it's not meeting the capacity that, or the internal resistance is too high, so the charger thinks the battery's no good. That's where a dumb charger with timer is useful. So I have my new batteries that I use the intelligent charger because it works fine. But I've got my older batteries that the intelligent charger refuses to charge that will charge in my dumb charger with a timer. So that's why having both is a good idea, because when the intelligent charger tells you that the battery's bad, it's not necessarily bad enough that it doesn't charge. Yes, it could be bad to a point where it doesn't charge. But most of the time, it still charges. It's just that the intelligent charger doesn't find them proper to charge. So that's the difference between both. And that's why dumb charger I keep, because my Rayovacs, for example, they still charge and they still last quite a long time when recharged. It's just that my intelligent chargers don't want to charge them anymore. Also, one of the things about charging is the fast chargers. I've got one here that's rated for 1 hour charging. Be very careful of these because they really, really damage your batteries a lot. Remember one thing: rechargeable batteries, the warmer they get when you charge, the less you will have charge cycles on them, because the warmer they get, the more damage you do to the battery. They're not supposed to become hot to a point where you can't touch them. That's not normal. It's not supposed to charge like that. These batteries are meant to be charged at a much lower rating. They can become warm to the touch. That's all right. But if they become hot to a point where you barely can hold them in your hands, your charger is destroying your batteries, and you will actually have batteries that will not last as long as they should. It's very important to know that. Jane Dagger, nice to have you on board, my friend. Yeah, that's the good use. Rufus Newt is using lithium in his outdoor sensors. That's the good use for lithium batteries. They are known to withhold a good charge even when it's really, really cold. And they are quite expensive. Lacrosse, nice to have you here, my friend. Want a really good medium wave receiver? It's an old Sharp audio video receiver. It's got a lower power station from Texas, and I'm in Wisconsin. I was impressed. WTAWAM. Some of the old audio video equipment is very, very good on AM FM. Some are very surprising. The tuners of the old days, like in some of these that are 20, 30, 40 years old, are really, really amazing. I need to plug back my Sharp 100-watt amplifier here. It has AM, FM radio on it. And I think that could make some really nice videos of the AM DXing with it. Actually comes with a little loop for AM that is inside, that is plugged outside, actually. I need to plug that back and try it out. Simply, some videos on YouTube, how to clean corrosion from battery leakage on battery compartments. That's the good thing of YouTube. I had a comment yesterday of somebody that is confined at home, and he said, wow, I love YouTube. I'm learning tons of things thanks to the fact that people like me are putting some educational videos online. Keegan says rechargeable batteries, the Ethon Gredic satellite allows recharging them with the AC adapter plugged in. HBC 101 from Malaysia, nice to have you on board. Stay safe, my friend, too. Is the PL600 good for medium wave DXing? It's not known. It's known to be okay. It's not known to be a DX power horse on medium wave, but it should be still good. I'm about to do videos on the PL600, so I'm going to test that out. Hardware's out of Crafter's Kitchen. Texan PL600 has never had battery or power issues, nor the Sony 2010. Granite 800 is an amazing set, but a battery hog. Yeah, it's a big set. It probably takes a lot more batteries. Simplio says he's got good results for the Texan PL600 in the medium wave band. Like us says, does anyone actively use the PL310 ET? I have one. It's just I've been impressed with it. Medium wave stopped working. I can't believe it's been that bad. PL3 ET has a very good rating in general as a shortwave receiver. Most of what I've read is I've got the original 310 without the ET, the ETM scan. Still works after 8 years. Make sure that you do a little test, remove the batteries for 24 hours. And it's not just that the CPU, the little chip in it, is kind of lost. But most people that have a PL310, actually almost everywhere, it's rated as one of the top low end shortwave receivers if you don't have a lot of money to spend. So unfortunately, maybe you've got a bad one. Almay Sam hearing 6577, the Caribbean aviation frequency. I was listening to the North Atlantic one on 5550, something like that. Artist Ali Crafter says PL600, amazing medium wave DX set. So interesting. What else do we have? Randy, Riverside, California. Nice to have you here. Mickey Dalmage sent National Cambodia Radio a tape that included the Celine Dion song My Heart Will Go On in QSL. Signer told me that the recording I sent was sung in the Khmer language by local artists. Kind of cool. Can you realign a ferrite rod in a radio? It depends on the radio, honestly. Not all radios are meant or designed to be realigned. What else do we have? Jim from Rhode Island. Nice to have you here. Oh, Sam, many years ago when our TI 990 10 computers would die, we'd pull the boards out and use an eraser on the contacts. Rufus Newt, I'll go outside tonight and guarantee I can break a record. Oh, man. Jerry says it's sunny and warm down south. Here it's really cold. Perfect for staying home. Simply, you have to slide the coil up and down. Yeah, there's that. There's another trick that you could try. So there's sliding the coil. If you can do so on the ferrite, will slightly change the tuning. Also, if it has just enough space, you can use a piece of paper and slide it between the coil and the rod. If you can actually put a piece of paper, it will actually make a very slight spacing of the coil. That also will change its tuning. That's actually what I did with one of the radios that I built myself. It was out of tune. It would kind of start at around 800 kilohertz and up, and I would not be able to tune below 800. And by putting a piece of paper that I had folded in 2 or 3 that I slid under it, I was able to tune all the way down to 500 kilohertz. It became more aligned. Good portable radio on Amazon for $150. Just check here what they have on receivers. Texan radios. I would get... There's the Texan PL380 that I own. That is really good. It is also a very nice one. Texan PL380. What else do we have here? If you want shortwave, of course. Incredible. I'm looking at the C Crane here in Canada. The C Crane Skywave SSB is 280 Canadian dollars. I would never pay that for that radio. Never. The Sangean ATS 909X, $324 Canadian. It's nice, it's beautiful, but I would never pay that for that radio. So here there's the Texan, but I don't know, maybe you're thinking not to buy a Texan because of your misfortune. Because the 310 ET is usually a really nice radio, You just got a What else do we have? Matt says it's interesting about WHRI. Once being in Indiana some years, they carried Indy 500 coverage. So, and I couldn't on their station, and I couldn't figure out why. Now it makes some sense. I didn't know they had moved, but then when I saw Indiana, I was like, "Oh, that rings a bell." That's why maybe I was mixed up. I was like, "Wait, I'm not sure anymore." And so we learned a little something about WHRI today. Yeah, the single sideband on the PL600 is a little garbled. Absolutely. That and the audio is also kind of harsh. Also has that also has a fix. There's a mod. What else do we have? Man made chocolate angel food cake today. Cool. I made bread, homemade bread. I've made pork roast. I'm making a lot of food these days. So Owen 81, nice to have you here from Bristol, UK. Can't sleep. Problem with finishing work at 11 a.m. and going around and around. Take it easy. Murphy's Newt has a QSL card from WHRI from Noblesville. Studios were in Sound Bend. Yeah, I remember that. Dave just purchased a PL880. He owns a ICF 2001D. What is your opinion on how the two radios compare? What do you suggest as the best indoor antenna for these radios? Can't install anything on my roof. So I don't own those two radios. I've heard a lot about those two radios. I know that the ICF 2001D, aka the ICF 2010, is an amazing portable, one of the best portables ever made. The PL880 that you will have is a great radio, and I think you're gonna love it. If you tell me that ICF 2001D performs a little better, I wouldn't be surprised. It's something that would not at all surprise me because I know that radio is highly rated, even though it's an older radio. Yeah, the PL880 is a great radio also. It's more modern. You know what? I would, for anybody that can't put an external antenna, I would purchase an ML830 antenna. It's not too big, and that would be probably your best bet for an indoor antenna. You could put it next to a window and would probably be really nice. Donald Hosmer says visited WHRI in Noblesville back in the late 80s or early 90s. Was quite a sight with a big antenna field. So that's nice. These are impressive. Simplio says 3 hours on the 1300 milliamp setting and the Texan PL600. I use the Energizer AA battery charger, lasts longer. Yeah, 3 hours not enough. Not for because it's a very low rate of charge too, so it's not enough. Owen, XH Data D808 PL660. I would go for an XH Data personally, although the PL660 doesn't have the chuffing when tuning. And the sync detector is, sync detection is not bad. It actually helps. On the PL660, it's actually good. Locks to signals. Sync detection is useful sometimes, and when a signal isn't too strong, fades a lot, or sometimes stuck in between a couple of stations, and it's a little difficult to tune in. Often brings that extra that you need to actually be able to listen in. But my personal, it's a tough one, but my personal would be option would be a D808, but the D808 does not have sync detection though. But it has several bandwidths that will help out. Noah Fogarty, what is the best, the PL380 or PL310 ET? That's a tough one. I can't really answer that question. I've heard good things of both. I got the PL380 here, which is very nice. But when compared to my RadioWow, notice that it's not as sensitive as the RadioWow R108, which would tell me that if you're to get a PL380, maybe the RadioWow R108 is a better choice. If you're choosing between both, I think both are good, honestly. Crittenden Tuttle 4, nice to have you here. HBC says PL380 ET is a bit more sensitive than the PL310. So I don't know. That's a tough one. Matt says only time signals I can get now are CHU 7850 and WWV 2.5. It's 9 plus 40. That's a good signal on 7850. Simplio says use a sealed lead acid 6-volt 5 amp RadioVac battery on my RadioShack for 6 years so far. AA batteries don't last long in that thing. Yeah, depends on the radio and all of that. Vanadium Total Noom. I want to listen to Air, Cuban Radio, and Lurk SSB in general. My budget is around 300 Canadian. Get yourself. So you got several choices there. You can get yourself a Sea Crane Skywave SSB. It's small, but it has airband. It will. It's good on shortwave. We'll get those Cuban stations. Has a nice single sideband. It's going to cost you. So if you're in Canada, it's $270 some, which is very expensive in my opinion. In a more reasonable budget, you could get yourself a XH Data D808. That will be 100 Canadian. Will be about 150, 140, 150. That will do the job. Has the airband also, and has shortwave, which is really good. That's for sure. Or a little less, 120, 130, you could get yourself a Texan PL660, which has the airband also, and has shortwave, and will add one capability that's interesting, is that it doesn't have that that muting while you tune, if that makes you go crazy, basically. What else do we have? So Dave C, I've already answered that question. What else do we have? Radio Romania. What else do we have? What else do we have? Harges Alley Crafters. Shelley, are you planning when you do your PL600 video to talk about SSB performance and touch on some of the mixing sounds down 75 meters? My two issues with it. Otherwise, I love mine. I will talk about it for sure. I will talk about it with, because I kind of review it with my, the PL600 is the first, I'll call it mid-range or higher end Texan that I've received and I purchased. Actually, a friend of mine was looking for a multi-band radio, and I had heard a lot of it about it, and that it was apparently good at the time. And I had purchased it, and he had purchased his also. And so, of course, I'll talk about it. I'll talk about distortion and single sideband that sometimes isn't really cool. But I will revisit it for sure. And, of course, have a lot of the we'll be posting tomorrow. Tomorrow is probably going to be Texan PL600 video day. So I'll be posting some videos of listening to single sideband and tuning around shortwave also at the same time. I also want to, because I haven't done it yet, the Texan R9012 analog, the Degen D13 also that I talked about. I want to do some medium wave scan. Maybe tonight, if I have the time, I'll do it, or tomorrow night. So there's a lot of thunderstorms in the U.S. For sure yesterday, because there was a lot of static crashes last night on the shortwave band. It was crazy. Noah Fogarty, what's my favorite radio of all time that I own or in general? If I talk about what I own, it's tough, but I am still in deep love with my Grundig G5 portable. That for me is one of the best portables ever designed as a receiver. And I talk about portables. Of course, for shortwave, my Kenwood R5000 is one of the best performers I've ever had. The ICOM, my CRD500 I've got here isn't bad, but it's not up to par, I would say. What else do we have? What else do we have? Just go down. Let's go down. Frank Ireland got the Texan PL660 and PL380. Very happy with both. Vanadium can't seem to find good deals on new one. What you could do is check on eBay. You sometimes have better sound than Amazon. I've noticed that a lot of the radios on Amazon are more expensive on Amazon than they are when you buy them on direct from China on eBay. Simplio DRM, you mean 7365 probably, which is Radio Marti in the US, which makes me kind of funny. Frank Ireland, how would you compare the Texan PL660 to the Ethan Elite Executive? It's, I hear a lot. So I've got, the Ethan Elite Executive is a well-known performer. It apparently is pretty good. Tough for me to tell you if one is better than the other, since I don't own any of them, and any of the two. I've got a 680 and not a 660, and I've got some Ethan, Traveler and stuff like that. What I hear is that both radios seem to be good, but which one I would choose? I can't really answer that question. Graham Taplin, Emily 30 or 30 plus were good inside a condo. I am on the third floor of a condo, and they both work good. Cool. What else do we have? Hunter's Out of Crafter says 2010 optimized with the whip does have overloading issues down on 7580. So kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. Jeff King says PL390 more sensitive than the 380. So, okay. Simply 05505. I was listening to Shannon Volmet just before I came to the show. It is very strong tonight. Really strong tonight. 5505 Shannon Volmet in Ireland. What else do we have? WF7i Homebrew 2010 was often cited by hams of the time as being a great station monitor to see how their rigs sounded on the air. It was comparable in quality to many of the Kenwood Yaesu ICOM rigs, but it was expensive also at the time. I mean, the 2010 in 1990 was like $600. It was a very expensive receiver, but known to be one of the best portables. RJDA Dakota, nice to have you here. Nice to have you here. Matt, Adam Brown, Tabby Cat, Black Kitten, and a Red Healer. Paul is in the house. He's sleeping on my other chair right now. Oh, and 81. So the muting when you tune the D808, I've heard about. So for it, mute each time you turn the tuning wheel one step. Yeah, it mutes slightly. It doesn't mute a lot, but it mutes. And so for some people that it drives nuts, that could be a negative point on the XH data. By the way, the C-Crane Skywave SSB also does have muting. It seems that almost all the radios that use that DSP chip actually mute when tuning around. Dark Noise NL, nice to have you here from the Netherlands, my friend. WSI Homebrew, personally love my Ethon E1XM. It's one of my best all-around fun radios to listen to. Not as good as the Kenwood TS2000, but it's more portable and user-friendly. I prefer some aspects of my PL680. Jay Lyle, nice to have you on board from Southern Illinois. WA9211SWL. And XH data, prefer some aspects of the PL680 than the XH data D808. You know, every radio has, and that's what I often say, is every radio has its positive and negative. And so each radio has that little something you like. Yes, it's fun when you tune around with the tuning button. That there's no muting or chuffing, because it's fun to tune around with a radio that doesn't mute all the time. But at the same time, XH Data D808, there are some aspects of it that I love. It's upper lower sideband separate, and all the bandwidths available. That makes me crazy. It's just amazing how it's flexible in its tuning, and I just love that. Each radio, I mean, the C-Crane Skywave SSB, I kind of like, except for the audio. The audio could be better, but I kind of like the Skywave SSB in its way also of tuning the bands and all of that. But once again, there's some chuffing. Ottawa Octane, nice to have you here. And says uses is Emily 30. Heard people talking on CB in Kingston, Ontario. Cool. William Moser, what? The radio under the clock. It's the Realistic Pro 2006 scanner radio. Good old scanner radio, 25 megahertz to 1300 megahertz. That was sold at RadioShack back in the days. That radio, I really, really used a lot listening to analog cell phones in the times. So Simplio says 1 kiloohm resistor and pin 18 to ground on the Toshiba TA2057N audio IC slows the audio rate down to clean up single sideband audio. So cool. Cool. WF7i Homebrew likes the filter selections on the XH data. Seems pretty unique. The 660 has smooth tuning on SSB. But the XH data has a better signal indicator, which is something I like. The XH data's filter selection is amazing. I mean, I've got that on the XH data. I've got that on the C Crane, and I've got that on what's the other radio that so like the PL380 has a lot of the tuning bandwidths, although not on a single sideband, but that is very unique, absolutely. How do I Octane bought a bag of alligator clips? I think I will run some wires up my tree. Cool. Go for it. Have fun. Absolutely. WF7i homebrew. Radios are very personal preference. That's for sure. What I like is not necessarily what somebody else will like. If they perform well and everything, then you'll have some that you will prefer over others. That's for sure. And not everybody will choose the same radio as its favorite performer and its favorite radio. There's a lot of it. There's a radio's performance, its features, but you know what? I think our mind also, the sexiness of the radio might play some role also. You might accept some drawbacks on some radios because it's beautiful, or the size is what you like, or the audio is better. It's a complex thing. It's a very complex thing. Frank Ireland, what's the difference between the MLA30 and MLA30 Plus? Well, from my tests, the MLA30 Plus seems a better performer and higher frequencies than the MLA30. So when I go to the 19 meter band, 16 meter band, 13 meter band, above 15 megahertz, MLA30 Plus gives me a little something more that the MLA30 doesn't. But whatever you have, both are still good. Carl Gilson's getting the Royal Air Force Vomit decently on 5450. Let's check it out. Yep, not bad at all. Al's got a Maine Coon named Trixie. Cool. They're nice. I like Maine Coons. They're beautiful cats. WF7i homebrew. I have to admit, the muting chuffing thing does drive me mad. If they could release a new version without that, I'd certainly pay a lot more. Yeah, I don't know why they have to. I know. I think why is, if you guys notice, it's very unique the way that it turns on and off, and the way that you got to wait a few seconds to turn on that lower or upper sideband mode. It's like the C Crane. The C Crane, it turns on and turn off. It's weird the way that it's done. And I think it's that maybe that chip on anybody have, and let me think of a radio. So all the radios I've got that has the silicon integrated chip in it, I think all of them have muting on them. So the question remains, if they use that chip, the DSP chip, is it possible to remove that chuffing? That's a good question, because it seems no one, I mean, I've got several radios here that have that DSP chip. I'm pretty sure all of them have that muting when you tune. I don't think anyone has a clean tuning when they use that chip, which means if you want to have a clean tuning experience, it has to be a radio that doesn't use that DSP radio chip, I would guess. Or it's the design. They all want to keep that design to a minimum. So because of the way that they design it, it does that. Don in the holler. Nice to have you here from Virginia. Beholden 97, nice to have you here. KC1FIG. Artists Outer Crafters. What have you heard about the Texan coming out with its is supposed to be the last shortwave portable? So it's not the last shortwave portables per se, but it's last shortwave high-end portables. So the H501 and the PL990 are the last high-end radios Texan will ever make. They haven't got out of the shortwave portables. They just aren't going to make any more high-end radios. So we might see new lower end radios, but not, those two radios coming out are the last ones. And honestly, if I look at the price that they are selling and they are going for, I'm not sure they're going to sell that many of them. PL990 the PL990 at $379 US. I ain't buying that. That's for sure. ON81 PL660 is 30 pounds more than the D808. So, the filters are great on the D808. The PL660 has the advantage of being a PLL synthesized radio, so it doesn't have muting when you tune around. That could be something that's more interesting for others. Matt says, didn't get to see them back in the day. They came to town. So we're talking about a band, I guess. What do we have? What else do we have? Daniel 805. Nice to have you here, my friend. Daniel 805, the best radio I have depends on what you want as the price of a radio. I've got several really good ones. I love my Grenadier G5 portable. Of course, the ICOM ICR 8500 that I have tabletop is an amazing performer. Anything that I have here is I have a lot of stuff that is really, really good. It's a very close call, I would say, and it becomes more personal at some point. Sergio Cordero, have you been surprised by a very cheap radio receiver? The analog Texan R9012 did surprise me for a cheap receiver. And it's hard to say, but one of the things that I found very interesting is when I started the channel and started looking around at shortwave portables, I was kind of out of the shortwave radio buying scene for a long time. So I was from the 90s and the where a good portable was a few $100. So when I came to the year 2000s and started looking around for shortwave radios online and saw Texan receivers like the PL600, that at the time, my PL600 at the time, I purchased for about 80 Canadian dollars, below 100. And I thought $80 for a shortwave radio that has single sideband. I was in my mind thinking that it can't be that good. And was totally surprised, even though there was, that distortion issue. I was totally surprised at how that thing performed, actually. And it made me, realize that prices had gone down for a decent shortwave radio. And that's good. I mean, because if you look at everybody here, if you look at all the people that follow my channel, one of the things that you'll see is that, a lot of people don't want to pay a lot of money for their radios. So it's a good thing for the hobby that there are radios that are less expensive today, WS7i Homebrew. After watching a channel, I've grown to appreciate having different radios in my life. Even the old crappy DX100 is fun to tune. Absolutely. I mean, it has its own personality. It's crazy when I see today how I had a crappy radio when I started. I wish I would have had that information that is available today. You guys come here and they're like, well, we talk about what's a good radio and what should I purchase. There's all the experience behind all of that I have and on everything, and all the people in the chat room, and we all share in our opinion of, well, that one's a good one, that one's a good one, this is what you should get, this is a decent performer, this is what you want if you're in that situation. I didn't have that in 1982. In 1982, honestly, that's pretty much it. In 1982, I based my purchase of a radio on how cool I thought it looked. Not thinking that it might not be as good as the other one that's next to it. I don't remember, but I remember there was a DX100, but there were a few others back then. And of course, it also went with the budget. I didn't have money for more than a DX100. It had to be in that price range. Now, little did I know, I could have maybe had a decent one used radio that would have been better. But anyways, I had $100, and that's what it cost, $100. And so I based my choice on, well, that looks cool, and it's $100. And you go home with the radio, and you have no idea. You don't know what you got. You don't know what you purchased. You don't know how good it is. You just chose whatever was in your face. And back then, you didn't really know that a radio was crappy in a way, because there were so many shortwave stations that every single little frequency that you were tuning, there was something there. So it seemed to be a good radio. It lacked, that's the first thing you notice. It's lacked in the bandwidth, because when all the stations were jam-packed together, it was difficult to really tune one in particular, because there was another one 5 kilohertz up and down, which meant it's difficult, it was difficult to listen to some stations sometimes, because the bands were so crowded. But it seemed to be a good radio, because it would pull in all of these stations. And I mean, I did hear Radio Australia with it. I did hear a lot of other stations with it, and I didn't know it was actually crappy in reality. When I compare it today to the radios I've got, it's like, man, that thing is crappy. But it is still fun to tune. And I think one of the things, in my case, that's my first real radio that I had. In my case, there's that nostalgia to it. I mean, listening into a shortwave signal on it and looking at it while, I'm listening to something is simply magic of going back when I was a teenage guy listening to the DX100. When I was listening to the DX Party Line from HCJB on it, I would set up, because I remember if, my main setup was in the living room. So to give you guys an idea, when I was young, we didn't have, my parents didn't have that much money. So I slept in the living room. And of course, for me to sleep in the living room meant that, if I go to bed, my dad might be watching TV, I had to live with that. But of course, that also means that was where my radio was. So my DX100 was there. But sometimes, I had the earphones, and it was kind of cool. But sometimes I didn't want to wear the earphones. I wanted to, be alone in a room and listen. So what I would do is I would pick up the radio and plug it in the kitchen, put it on the kitchen table, and then I'd put 20, 30 feet of wire, and I would listen to shortwave with that. And Saturday evenings, what was my Saturday evenings of that time? It was putting my radio in the kitchen, setting up a piece of wire in the kitchen, and listening to the DX Party Line without the earphones. I was just listening to it in the kitchen, sitting down, and listening to that in the Saturday evenings, Simplio says, I like to hear others' opinions to help me form an opinion from others who have experienced radios. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. That's the good thing about all the radio videos, all the different channels, and all the different people using radios. We all have our own opinion and have our own take on something. Artist Ali Crafter's Kitchen, sexiness is what drove me to buy the Grundig Satellite 800, despite quirks and battery issues. It is a nice radio. I still remember when I was a tech guy going to that client to fix his computer. Immediately noticed the Grundig Satellite 800 in the living room. And I remember asking the guy, says, oh, you listen to shortwave? And he said, what's that? I said, oh, it's because that radio can tune shortwave and can listen to stations from around the world. But by the way it was positioned in the living room, I, immediately looked at it and said, yeah, it's not plugged in to receive anything. And I think the guy told me once, oh, well, I tried with the antenna and I didn't get anything. I don't think it receives well world stations and stuff, or there's not a lot to listen to. But he was living in a condo, so it was like probably a lot of noise around him, And that Grundig Satellite 800 that I've seen, because I went there to fix his computers maybe 4 or 5 times over the years, was always tuned to one station, which is the CBC in French on FM. And I was always thinking, man, such a beautiful radio doing only that. What a shame. Donald Hosmer says the XH Data D808 was the cheapest radio I ever fell in love with. For $80 I paid. It had features many of my former communications receivers did not have. Pretty crazy what it has as features. Absolutely. For the price paid, it's just crazy. Acid Froggy. 40 years ago, I borrowed an old Adacrafters receiver from my first ham radio instructor. God, how I wish I had that receiver today. Those things were big, beautiful, and built to last forever. They were pretty crazy. They were pretty amazing. They were pretty amazing. Joseph, nice to have you on board from the Bay Area, California. RJ Dakota says, D808 has surprised me. The bandwidth filters are tremendous. It operates more like a computer than an actual radio. It is a tremendous receiver. Absolutely. It's amazing radio. It's an amazing radio for what it is. Really crazy. You have 7i Homebrew says, I like to someday, among the 1,000 projects in my mind, to play with building a radio of my own off that DSP chip. That'd be a good idea. You can buy that DSP chip alone, by the way, on eBay. So you just type SI473435. You can get that DSP chip for a really low price, and that is a total. It's a complete radio in a chip. It's what goes around it that changes its behavior a little bit. So, what is making that muting? What is making that muting? Is it that the chip performance isn't fast enough and you got to cope with its adjustments within the chip itself? That's what I was wondering. Why is no other manufacturer doing one with that DSP chip and has no muting? Or is it just too expensive to implement the circuitry needed to remove the chuffing? My take was that maybe the DSP chip's reaction time is just not fast enough. And it is a result of that chuffing. I don't know. But that'd be a nice experiment, absolutely. That's for sure. Maybe you could even, maybe it could bring yourself a mod that we could do on some radios to fix it, Steve Miller, nice to have you on board. Says, thank you for generating a new interest in shortwave listening. Cool. That is cool. James Farley, PL 880 doesn't chuff. Yeah, but it's a PLL driven radio. It doesn't work on the. It's not a DSP driven radio. It's a regular PLL radio with digital display. Jane Dagger says, using a razor on my monitor and doesn't get bright enough. Man. That's the thing of the PL880, PL660, PL680, PL600. They're all PLL-based receivers with digital display. And so because they don't use DSP in it, it doesn't chuff, So PL660 says Vanadium. Matthew Shaw, nice to have you on board. Matt from the UK. PL660. Let me just check eBay here. eBay. Texan. PL660 on eBay. How much do they sell it now? Oh, this is expensive. Texan PL660 in Canadian dollars is crazy now on eBay. $195 Canadian. The cheapest one is $175. Free shipping. Only one left. From China. $175. This is expensive now. Let me check 680. Texan PL 680. Do they still sell it? They still sell it. And $198. Now these guys are crazy. Texan PL 680. $373. Come on, guys. That's not worth it at all. This is crazy. So brand new Texan PL 680, 680. $200. Around $200. This is crazy. That's Canadian dollars. Wow. These radios have gone up in price. I wonder if you I wondered if the fact that on that I've seen the post on the shortwavelistening.com that radios and shortwave radios sales are really on the rise with what's happening with the virus. And I wonder if it's pushing up the prices of the radios. One thing for sure also here that doesn't help is the Canadian dollar. When I got my Texan PL 680, give you guys an idea. When I purchased my Texan PL 680, the Canadian dollar was about 95 US cents. It wasn't very far from being at par. So when I purchased it, it cost me something like, I don't know, 115 Canadian dollars. But now the Canadian dollar is like 69, 70 US cents. That means that exchange rate is hurting a lot here in Canada and purchasing stuff. I've actually purchased a lot less stuff over the last few years because of that. When I got my Texan PL 600, my Texan PL 600 was the Canadian dollar was at par at the time. And we even had, I think the Canadian dollar was even a little higher than the US dollar. So I had a pretty good deal on it. Hey guys, just to give you a little look at Mr. Paul, because I know you love him. So here's Mr. Paul the cat here, and here he is, Mr. Paul the cat, saying hello, half just kind of half sleepy here, saying hi to everybody. Jay Dakota says my first radio was a simple 4-band realistic astronaut 4, but it seemed tremendous on that 30-meter long wire antenna. Yeah. Jay Lyles, Jill, I bet you couldn't wait to get home the day you purchased your Kenwood R5000. I was really excited in 91 with my Drake R8. Stayed up almost all night listening. It was a story time. Kamagzi 1976. Nice to have you here. 73 Cadarius. It was nice to have you on board. So it's story time. When I my Kenwood R5000, by the way, it's fast load that you guys see in the chat room from time to time that hasn't now. I bought it in 1990-ish. 1990, I think, is the year, actually. So the story behind it is that there was a place called Radio Lorenz in downtown Montreal where they had this Kenwood R5000, and it cost, I still remember, it cost $1,349 Canadian. I was going to buy books because they would have tons of books that you could about radio. So it was my place to get books. And what I didn't know back then was Sheldon Harvey that actually was having all the books there. So I would go there to get some books and get magazines and stuff about radio. And of course, I would, take a peek at the Kenwood R5000 that it would drool all over the counter on. And so it was $1,350. Now you had to, it was a must. When you had that Kenwood receiver, you had to buy that AM filter because the one that came with it was way too large. So you had to add another $150. So that was $1,500 now. Plus the taxes to pay and everything. That meant it was a $1,700-ish radio. So $1,700 was a lot of money. And back then, I had a job which was minimum wage. To give you guys an idea, minimum wage back then was here in Canada something like $5 an hour. So it gives you an idea. And I was still living with my parents, so I would be able to put money in the bank. And, but it was a long way. I mean, at minimum wage and with all the things I had to pay, it was a long way to get there. One day I was, my brother would look at classified ads all the time. And my brother, heard me talk about the Kenwood R5000 so many times that he knew that was a radio that I wanted. So he calls me up and he says, hey, in the classifieds, there's a guy selling a Kenwood R5000 for $900. And so I'm like, whoa, 900. And I look at the ad, and the ad says comes with the AM filter. So that's 900 versus 1,700. That's making me save $800 there. The guy on the ad says he's owned it for less than 6 months. So it's brand new. So I tell my brother, I said, you know what? I got $900. I do have $900. And I remember it's payday also at the same time. So it helps because I got $900 in the bank, but it's payday. So even if I take all of the money out, at least I still have some money. So I tell my brother, I said, "Well, you want to go and check it out with me?" And it wasn't very far from here, actually, where I live, and where I would live back then. So I went there, called the guy. The guy was said, "Yeah, you can come tonight if you want to see it." I go there, and I decide, I'm gonna check it out, and we all have that expectation. I mean, I have $900 in my pocket when I'm going there, because whatever happens, if that thing works, I'm coming home with a radio. I'm minded. I want to have it. So I get there. The guy doesn't have anything. There's no antennas, no nothing to test it. So I talk with the guy, and the guy shows me the invoice. It actually comes from Radio Lorenz, downtown Montreal, and it is about 6 months old. And the guy purchased it, not knowing what he was purchasing, because it had that promise of listening to the world. And he plugged it in a couple of times, tuned around, didn't understand a thing, and it put it back in the box. And he said, "I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing, or I didn't feel like I don't know what that thing does." Actually, he really had no idea. He just purchased it out of the blue because he thought it might be cool, and it turns out he doesn't know what he's doing. So he doesn't have an antenna or anything. But so I look at him. I said, "Do you have any? It's something I should have brought with me, but I didn't have any. So I do you have any speaker wire or some wire of some sort that I could use?" And so he says, "Oh, you want to try it a little bit?" Yeah, 'cause I want to I want to see if it receives, because I don't know. Does that thing work? It turns on, but I don't know if it works. So I comes back. He has I don't know, 20 feet of wire, and we're in the garage. He has his house, but we're in the garage. So I put that 20 feet of wire, and put the wire in the hole of the connector of the Kenwood, and I start tuning around, and I'm hearing Radio Berlin International, and I'm hearing these stations, and I'm like, that thing seems to work. And the guy looks at me and says, "If it doesn't work, yeah, I'll give you back your money. You just bring it back, and that's it." So now that's the other part. I mean, I was at minimum wage, so of course I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna shed $900 on it, which is almost all the money I got." So I kind of bluffed, and I said, "Look, I got 800. I got 800 on me." And the guy looked at me and said, "Yeah, okay, for 800." So I actually had it for 800, and I still had my $100 left in my pocket. Honestly, you would have said, "No, it's 900. It's a good deal." I would have said, "Okay, 900." But I faked it. I bluffed a little bit, and the guy said, "Okay." So I got it for 800. Boy, was I happy, and really, really, when I went home, I remember I had in the box. I went home. First thing that I did when I got home, opened the top of the radio, because he had to install that filter he purchased with the radio. Was not installed inside. So I opened up the radio, and I had read articles and seen how to do it. So I knew what to do. Took the cover off, removed the old one, put the new filter in, turned it on, and I listened to Shortwave all night. It was a Thursday night, and it was so funny. I listened to Shortwave until like 3 or 4 a.m. And I was so excited with the radio that I actually called sick on the Friday morning. Said, "Oh, I'm sick. I don't feel good today. I won't be going at work today." Of course not. I wanted to play with the radio all day long. So I played with the Kenwood all day long instead of going to work. And that's pretty much the story there. Pretty crazy. Oh, man. It's just so funny. Just so funny. Oh, interesting. I'm going to check it out. WF7 Iombra. Someone built a radio off of it. Huh. Interesting. I'll have to be checking that out for sure. And that chip is very customizable, so there may be a lot of things it can do on it. Terry Cook, looking at the data sheet on the silicon integrated chip, it looks like the soft mute is programmable by the firmware. Huh, okay. Why would they put the soft mute, you know? Matthew Shaw loves this channel. Lots of stuff to learn. Surface News, skyrocket radio prices. Yeah. Michael, nice to have you here from West Virginia. Texan has 2 new radios coming out. I will be happy to see them. Yeah, they're too expensive. Too expensive. So, Bobby Burgess, Canadian dollars, 71 cents. Yeah, it'd been going down a lot with the oil prices going down also. Matthew Shaw left to hit 10-meter repeater in New York, waiting for the skip. My friend did this last year. Cool. What's the radio behind Mr. Paul? There were actually a lot of radios, but there's that old Brownie multiband, AM, FM, VHF, which is an old solid-state radio. And on the top, well, there's the Patrolman CB60. There's the portables ICOM ICR20 and 30. Realistic DX100, realistic TRC 432 CB, and so on. There's quite a few little things there. Yeah, the brown radio is Brownie. It's funny that it's called the Brownie and it's brown. It's a multiband AM, FM, and VHF multiband. An old radio, kind of with a vinyl case. A vinyl case. No politics, please, at all. What else do we have? Everybody saying hello to Mr. Paul. Everybody saying hello to Paul. Matthew Shaw, the most popular band in the US. You mean for amateur radio? What do you mean for what? Vanadium. Well, some people do have impulse purchases. I think it's for every generation has its own people that are just impulse buyers, and they think, oh wow, that must be the best. It costs $1,500, you know, but I have no idea what they buy. Terry Cook, pretty good Reddit article discussing the soft muting on Silicon Labs DSP chips. Huh. Interesting. Clark Gilson, very good, very cool story. Simply 3822 lower sideband, someone playing music, interfering. It happens all the time on the bands. There's idiots everywhere, and there's more idiots now because of what's happening. They have time to, you know, do bad stuff, which is dumb, honestly. It's just so stupid sometimes what we could see. RJ Dakota says, bought a nice portable radio off of a man, a realistic portable he practically gave me. I had no idea how the other band on the radio worked. Parked it on one station. A lot of people don't know what they have. You know, they purchase something and they have no idea of what they have and how it works. You know what I mean? Look here. You know, remove the remove the fact that you guys know this channel and a lot of you know radio and know other people that know radio. Put yourself in 1990. No internet. I mean, obviously he had no radios, ever had any other radios before. So he didn't know clubs existed or any books that he could have purchased. And I'm sure when he purchased it, he didn't even notice that there were books that talked about the radio because he didn't have anything. I mean, the Kenwood R5000 is already a more professional radio. You know, when you buy, so let's go back to me in 1982. When I got the DX100, one thing was good with it, and it was the manual. It was it wasn't a lot of pages, but the instruction manual explained what shortwave was in enough detail that I immediately knew not only that shortwave was radio waves that would go around the world, but it told me where international broadcast bands were, where amateur radio bands were. I already knew where to tune to listen to the different signals. So I had a basics of shortwave in that book. So I knew where to go on the radio to listen. The Kenwood R5000 comes with a manual that explains how the radio works. Nothing more. It doesn't explain shortwave or anything. Why? Because Kenwood was thinking, well, if you're going to pay $1,500 for this thing, it's because you know what it is. We don't need to explain what it is. You already know what it is. Which would be my logic between this. So he didn't have a startup. He didn't have anything to explain. Well, international broadcasters are here. And, plus the fact that, well, in the daytime, you better tune there, and this nighttime, tune here, and so on. So he didn't have any way or any knowledge to where to start with this. Where do you start? He had no idea. Where at least, even if I had a crappy radio, I knew where to tune to listen to stuff. I knew already about the day-night patterns because they explained it. So, and I was a curious kid, so I tuned everywhere all the time. At least I knew where to tune, which was probably what he didn't have as the basics. And we all don't have the same patience. Some of us have, sit down and tune for hours trying to see what we can get. Some people sit down in front of a radio, tune for 10 minutes, and they're like, okay, well, that's kind of crappy, not interesting, and stop. You got to take, like every hobby, you need to take the time to learn and hear what you can get on the bands. Levi Nathan, nice to have you on board, my friend, from Israel. Let's check out if we get 6607 from Israel. 6607. Yeah. 4XZ. Morse code station in Israel, 6607. I'm getting Israel right now in Morse code. 4XZ. If you don't have CW mode, tune 6606 and put yourself in upper sideband. And, yep. Israel coming in, 6607 in Morse code, 4XZ station. Frederick Fichtman, nice to have you on board. No, I do not have my ham license. Eventually, soon, I need to get it. I might get it, actually. One thing interesting about the about the one thing interesting about the what I was talking about. I forgot. I saw the post and I totally forgot. Something distracted me. Ham oh yeah, the ham license thing. I've seen that because of the coronavirus, you can actually get an examiner to check on you online via a video conference and actually pass your ham radio license online if you want. So I'm going to be checking that out. WS7i datasheet. The soft mute feature is available to attenuate the audio outputs and minimize audible noise in very weak signal conditions. The soft mute feature is triggered by the signal noise metric. Huh. Take care, Jane Dagger. Always nice to have you on board. The signal noise ratio threshold for activating soft mute programmable as the soft mute attenuation levels and attack and release rates. Okay, kind of interesting. Ray Carlisi, do you own any shortwave vintage tube radios? I had one, which was a Disman 67. Unfortunately, that one is not here anymore. I would like to own some older tube radios. I do have a vintage Grundig satellite transistor 6001 from 1969, but it's not tube. It's transistorized. What else do we have? Al said, had the same realistic radio of a RadioShack just above Mr. Paul, and it was a great radio. I still have my Grundig Satellite 750, where my cat Trixie sleeps and listens. Cool. Nicola Giorgio, nice to have you here. IZ3ECC, Nicola from Italy. Nice to have you here, my friend. Hope everything's all right in your neck of the woods. Tony Turtle, nice to have you here from Michigan. Rufus Newt, RadioShack turned on a lot of people to shortwave. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Al says, too bad the kids today are not as interested in radio as we were back in the day. It's interesting because you know what? With what's happening right now, one of the, hey, Dean Brown. Hello there. He's a radio virgin. So this is pretty interesting stuff. Good job. Thanks, Dean. Nice to have you here. So a radio virgin. I like that. So RadioShack did turn a lot of people into radio. That's for sure. And even though not everything they sold was good, they were good enough, and the manuals would actually explain enough for the basics and learn about it. So, it's really, really interesting. But one of the things we were talking about kids, Hal, is I've been reading articles in a newspaper, one of the newspapers here, that was talking about what families do in this time where everybody's inside at home, stuck with no school, no. And they were saying that there's a lot of old hobbies and old things that are actually coming back. And I was thinking this probably is a great time to teach your kids, buy a kit on Amazon, a electronics kit of some sort, and show your kids, radio, soldering, electronics. We have to remember one thing is that today we still have and we still need in the future people that know electronics and know all of this stuff, because, our devices that we use are electronics. These are transceivers. The phone is a transceiver. It receives and sends radio waves. It is a radio. So, We need people to have that knowledge in the future. I think it's not that there's a lack of interest. I'm more on the side of the way things are happening today. We're not driving that in that same direction, maybe. Because I mean, even in our days, I mean, I look at the when I was a teenage guy listening to shortwave. I was alone. I was a weirdo listening to world stations around the world. I was a weird guy, and I didn't know. Apart from my sister that was a ham radio operator, I didn't know anybody that was doing that. Anyone. I seem to be alone. So imagine in 1982, I had the impression I was alone doing this, and it was more popular then than it is today. It's really a question. I might have never been interested in any of that, actually. I might have never stumbled upon what shortwave is in any way because maybe I never would have had a radio in my hands. And you know what? I never would have known, and I would not be here doing this show that I'm doing tonight with all you guys. It's crazy. So we have Dean Brown, a radio virgin. I'm going to have to introduce you to the radio hobby, Dean. Nice to have you here, my friend. And Dean Brown is in Montreal, by the way. Shelly, nice to have you on board. She says she missed the whole 2 hours. Hey, we've been on for what? 2 hours and 15 minutes now. Ottawa Octane says last few weeks listening to AM radio was a lot of ads. One of the without going into too much into what's happening, AM radio is definitely interesting at night with all the U.S. stations coming on and seeing how everybody's coping differently with what's happening. RJ Dakota. And RadioShack, unfortunately, RadioShack died because they tried to change their business into something that was not what they were. Why did we go to RadioShack when we were young? I would go to RadioShack because there was all these cool gadgets. There was electronic kits. There was all sorts of cool things. That's why I went to RadioShack. When they started being mainstream and having less of everything that was cool and less shortwave radios, it became an average chain of stores that sells electronics that became very boring, and they lost the people like us that were going there all the time. Terry Cook, Sanji and ATS 405 is a DSP radio, but it has switchable soft muting. Huh. Okay. Kind of interesting. So yeah, they're doing a ham radio license online now. So I will be getting my ham radio license for sure. RJ Dakota used to tune the entire medium wave band as a kid. Always amazed at what I found, even on small portables. Matthew Shaw is listening to HF Global Command from the U.S. Air Force for 724-6712-6739 on the web SDR. Let me tune 4724. I haven't tuned one of the frequencies of the U.S. Global Command in a while. See when we have some stuff there. Francis, ZB3Y from Gibraltar. Nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Ottawa Octane, my daughter's friend's dad posted on Facebook if anyone had a shortwave radio. I gave them my grandfather's old crank radio from RadioShack. Wow. Horizontal Crafters, my son and I built an FM radio kit. It was a great learning experience for both of us, much more tactile than a computer or video game. It was crazy. Francis, a 2 meter 70 centimeter USB D-Star portable. If it's just for reception, or is you want a transceiver? I remember going to the library and just going through all the books, see if they have any books for radio and stuff, and they had only old stuff and old books in there. It was crazy. Yarrabumba, yeah, RadioShack is called The Source now in Canada, and it's now a very mainstream electronics store where I don't even go anymore because there's nothing interesting. There's nothing interesting in there anymore. Not for me, I mean, you go there for smart TVs and assistants and stuff and smartphones. That's pretty much what you go there for, and computers, which is boring. There's tons of those everywhere. Lots of stuff, lots of interesting stuff. Sheldon Harvey from Greenfield Park, Quebec. Nice to have you here, my friend. I need to get ready for some check out a few stories for Friday's recording of the International Radio Report for Sunday morning. RJ Dakota was a Lafayette radio electronics store in the shopping center not far from us. We used to have a couple of ham radio stores and stores that sold receivers. One of the things that was cool even back in the 80s is that shortwave receivers were just popular enough that even mainstream electronics chains would have at least one or two portables. And actually, I remember going downtown. There was a store called, what was it? Trying to remember the name. It's it's an electronics store that closed down. No, I think it's still there. It's on Layton Audio or something like that. It's called, and they sell only audio stuff. That's where you go if you want to get a good. Back then that was the place where you would get a good stereo. And I remember buying the Grundig Yacht Boy 400 there. I popped in. I went through the store, and in the counter there was a Grundig Yacht Boy 400 receiver. And I looked at the guy. The guy said, I think it was $229. I remember it was like $229 or $249. And I said, "Oh, I found another store that has it for $199." He looked at me and said, "Okay, how about if I do it at $219? Would you buy it?" And I said, $219, sold. And I remember getting home with that Grundig Yacht Boy 400, and that's, I don't know, 1993, 1994, somewhere there. At least, even mainstream stores still had shortwave radio. There was a place at the shopping mall here, not far from where I live, that sells smart TVs and stuff like that. That place is open for the past, I don't know, it's been open for maybe 15 years. I remember the year that they opened. They had on display a Sony ICF 7600. The year that they actually opened. But today, if you go there, forget it. Shortwave radios are not, and, all the big gun, because, that's also a part of the problem today. Back then, mainstream names like Sony or Panasonic had shortwave receivers. Today, Sony doesn't make any receivers anymore. Panasonic makes almost nothing. We're in a different era. And because these chains actually do business with big names like Sony, they don't have anything anymore because these big chains don't have that. These big, like Sony doesn't have any radios. So they don't have Texans and stuff like that because those radios, like Texan radios, are not, mainstream sold everywhere. They're exclusive to very, to different shops and stuff. It's, kind of interesting. Auto Octane, RadioShack had CB radios, electronics, Tandy computers. Yeah, they had a lot of stuff. It was really crazy, but we had back then. Terry Cook, stay safe. See you Friday on the live show. For those that are here and don't know, we have 2 shows a week. We have Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 0 UTC. We have Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. That's 20 UTC. Hope you enjoyed the show today. No time limits. Somebody asked me the other day, says, how long are the shows? There's no time limits. So technically they could last an hour, which it never does. And technically it could last forever. The record show is what? 4 hours, 30 minutes? Is it 4 hours, 30 minutes or 5 hours, 30 minutes? I forgot. I just know it was a long show. And I had a lot of beer that night. Ottawa Octane. Is there still some electronics stores in Montreal? I did see stores about 10 years ago that sold free satellite TV stuff. Not a lot of stuff. But there's today there's Addison Electronics is not far from where I live. They do have a couple of shortwave radios in store from Saint Jean, but it's still kind of a place where you can get some electronic parts and stuff, but it's slowly becoming more mainstream in what it sells. It's not like when I was young. When I was young, they were selling these electronic circuits from all the different electronic boards from different things that they would get surplus from everywhere. So there's tons of things in there. I had a lot of fun with that. Sheldon Harvey, Lathan Audio, St. Catherine. Yeah, I remember the Grande Yacht Boy 400 was from Lathan Audio. Lathan Audio. When I purchased that Yacht Boy, it was maybe a year or two after Radio Lorenz shut down. Sheldon Harvey bought his Sony ICF 6800W from Laplace. I don't know that place. I've never been there. Laplace. I remember buying a Sanjian off of what was the name? Oh man. There was a chain of stores, Sheldon. If you remember well, there was a chain. It was a pretty big chain of stores that would sell electronics that shut down maybe 15, 20 years ago, maybe. And I have the name real close. They were a pretty big chain. There was many of their stores everywhere. And I remember purchasing a Sanjian receiver, Sanjian ATS 800A that I have here, came from that place. It was something electronic. I'm trying to remember. Rob says Radio Shack was cool to visit, explore all the cool gadgets, walkie-talkies, electronic parts. Absolutely. J. Lyle, I have a vintage Radio Shack about 80 miles from me. Still open and looks like the Radio Shack of old. Coax connectors, plugs. Wow, this is cool. Really cool. Ottawa Octane says around the year 2000 was crank radios, solar radios in Walmart. Wow. Raffleman 336, nice to have you here. And 8UCN from Southwest Ohio. Got back from the park. My mini D expedition yielded some interesting catches. Cool. Civil Air Patrol net on 7615. WMRI 7730. Cool. Yara Bamba remembers the Grundig Yacht Boy 400 bought at Best Buy for $199 and $95. Yeah. Pretty crazy. Jeff King, getting hard to find getting hard to even find a pocket radio in stores now. That's true. That's true. Yeah, they were purchased. The source was purchased by Bell. Yeah. Simplio 13840, Radio New Zealand. Let's just try it out here as we're getting close to summer. Slowly but surely, this is going to come through. Whoops. I accidentally moved this. With switch antenna. I don't see a peep of signal here, but usually 13840 is, Frank Robinson still uses DX160. Does a decent job where of all the numbers gone. Number stations. Go to Priom, PRIYOM.org. It's a great place, and you'll see that there's still quite a lot of number stations available online on the shortwave bands. Man. So, Sheldon Laplace was a big electronics dealer on Saint Laurent Boulevard. Huh? Never been there. Lee Watts, nice to have you here. Was just watching your video, the CIDX Barbecue 2019. Text NPL 365 or XH data D808. XH data without any hesitation. Ottawa Octane. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there for electronic parts and stuff. It's still a nice place, Addison Electronic. It's very close where I live. I go out here. It's like a 25-minute walk from where I live. I go there regularly, actually. Sean Harvey, too much older shops in Montreal were Savard Radio and Payette Radio. Yeah, those closed down a long time ago. Yeah, Radio Offset. I haven't been there in ages. I should go there one day. I haven't been to Offset in a long time. I guess it's the owner, the old guy is the owner. When that guy dies, the shop's gonna close or something. Oh man, Offset. I used to get my I think it was Passport to World Band Radio at Radio Hofsep at some point. But there was Atlantic Electronic. Remember, Sheldon? Atlantic Electronic? That was a big chain of stores called Atlantic Electronic. And that's where I bought a St. Jean. And I remember they had one or two shortwave radios back in the 90s. There was one on Mont Royal because I would go there. I would work not far from there on Mont Royal back in the 90s. Allied Radio. Yeah, Omar Man. Allied Radio. And all these places. I always found it surprising that a big city like Montreal never retained at least one big radio or an amateur radio store. Yeah, I figured that that probably came from you, the passports from OFSEP. I would go there and I remember what I would do. I would take a walk because it was I was I don't know, I maybe a 45-minute walk away from it, and I would take that walk when it was a beautiful day and go check it out and check the passport while being radio. Bought it a few times there in the 90s. I should go there. I don't know if it's open now, but I should go there when things get better. I haven't been to Hofstep in a long time. I've been around there so many times, but never went back to that store. I should check it out. He had a lot of old receivers, a lot of old tube radios, and a lot of stuff. That place was like full of stuff everywhere. That was crazy. Offsep is that place where there's like tons of radios everywhere, and mostly old radios, old tube and transistor receivers. I don't recall seeing anything new there. Any modern radios much. I mostly saw a lot of old radios. Simply, oh. So, Steve, nice to have you on board from Australia. 13840 strong signal, but he's in Australia, like he says. Yeah, last amateur store in Montreal, Radio Progressive on the Trans Canada. Yeah, I went there a couple of times. Long time ago with my brother. Jay Lyle says, still have my RadioShack DX390. Got in mid 90s. Still works. Little deaf on telescopic antenna, but fun and external. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna go and check out the offset one day when it's when the beautiful weather returns and things start getting back to normal. I'm gonna check it out. I'm curious to see what they have. Passport to World Band Radio, I remember, was available at RadioShack for a while. And I still remember being at RadioShack. Somebody had purchased the Grande Gadboy 400. And I was there. And the guy came back to get his money back. And he said, I don't hear anything. This thing doesn't work. It's broken. And I said, I don't think it's broken. I think maybe it's shortwave is unique. You need to know where to tune and stuff. So before he actually got his money back, I said, if you want, we can go in the parking lot and I'm going to tune. I know a few frequencies of things we can listen to. And I remember there was Radio Havana, Cuba in French at the time that we were in the store. So I went outside. I punched in the frequency of Radio Havana, Cuba in French with the telescopic in the parking lot. And the guy listened, and I said, well, this is Radio Havana, Cuba. You're listening to Cuba in French right now. And then I punched a few frequencies. One was, I think, was Radio Moscow. And he understood, wow, this thing works. And I said, they sell a book called Passport to World Band Radio. I think that would be of great help if you get that radio. That book will help you out. But he didn't understand a lot of English. So I went in, he took the book, and I said, if you need help, I can give you my phone number. Just call me, and I'll be happy to, we meet somewhere or I go to your place, and I'll show you shortwave radio a little more. And he never did call, but I don't know. Probably I put him in the right direction for shortwave listening. He needed a little bit of help. Matthew Shaw, Miss Tandy's and Dixon's. Most radio shops in the UK have closed down. Yeah, I know. J. Lyle, New Zealand, around 8 and 9, S8 and 9 in Southern Illinois. Nothing here, not even a peep in the display, unfortunately. Simply, how would I order just a few resistors? I don't like minimum purchases. I want 1K, 1.2. If you order just a few, I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to purchase a pack of 10. I mean, these are so cheap that probably your minimum purchase for resistors would be, to purchase them. Even here, if I go to the Addison Electronics and need resistors, I probably need to buy packs of 10. I have no choice. So if I would need a 1, 1.2, 1.5, I would need to buy a pack of 10 of 1K, 1.2K, and so on. Yeah, the MLA30. It's nice. One thing that's nice about the MLA30 is at least that it's making it's really making a lot of it's a cheap way to get a decent antenna to listen to signals, honestly. Artist Ali Crafter's Kitchen, reading my 1999 Passport of World Band Radio, had a great review to Sony 2010. Yeah, they always had a pretty good review. Always had a pretty good review. Let's check out what's in the 49 meter band here. So it's what, 0240 UT. Anything on WRMI? I think 7780 has radio. It's Radio Prague or something. Oh, no, it's not. No, I don't think it is. That seems religious. 5850 must be Red Astaire. Oh, some music. Very distorted Radio Havana Cuba on 6000. Simply was hearing it with just 10 feet of wire. Cool. You guys on the West Coast have a better shot at it. Steve, looking forward to the K180 review to see how it performs on the airband. I'm very curious. That's going to be an interesting one for sure. So this is going to be, I can't wait to test out. One of the things I'm curious also is when I listen to amateur radio satellites in the 2 meter band, how will it perform to hear those satellites at 145 megahertz? So, Francis ZB3Y says, wish I could have the ability to have an antenna in the QTH. That is a big, big problem for a lot of people. Having antennas is a huge issue, unfortunately. So, hey guys, we've been on for 2 hours, 43 minutes. I'm going to take it easy for the rest of the night. We'll be back Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 20 UTC. Hope you enjoyed the show. And thanks for being great fans. Thanks for being amazing people. Don't forget, there's a Facebook group, official SWL channel. It's where you can actually just chill out and continue the radio conversation as we continue, in between the live shows. BW's Electronic, about the only place I can think of to get a single resistor and the store is near impossible to find, would be an independent RadioShack. Because even RadioShack, I remember I never could purchase one resistor. They're always in packs here. So, but they're really cheap. And I mean, let's just check out eBay for curiosity. Of course, there's probably shipping. Let me just check it out. So on eBay, about if I want to have 1K resistor. So you can buy 100 for $1.68, free shipping. 100 piece, a quarter watt, 100 piece metal film resistor, plus or minus 1%. Full range of values are available, 0 ohm to 10 mega ohm. 168 for 100. So when you click on it, I guess you probably have to choose which value. So yeah, that's it. So you click on it, and there's the values that you choose from. And then, man, the guy has like every value possible here. Crazy. Yeah, I understand you don't want to have 100, but I think you won't have any choice to buy it in packs like that. So you select your value, quantity, $1.68 Canadian, $1.18 US. So $1.18 US, shipping included for 100 resistors. This is crazy. So, they're just so cheap. But, I understand that when you need one or two, it's, it's really, really crazy. So anyways, take care. Hey, Kimberly, I would like to show you a peek out the window, but it's kind of too complicated for me right now, the way that I'm set up. I'm going to try to do it next time. Sorry. Yeah, that's the thing. Like Dean Brown says, it's like it's cheap, but if you need two, you got 98 left. Unless you do a lot of electronics, forget it. Yeah, they say 1%, plus or minus 1%. Apparently, I mean, these things are so cheap, and they produce all the electronics around the world. They must have tons of factories that actually have these. Well, check around eBay, Simplio, because if you need higher quality, they have everything. There are some higher quality, I'm sure, on eBay. I'm sure some sellers will tell you they have a better quality for lower noise. That's for sure. So take care, my friends. Stay safe. See you Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 20 UTC. Hope you enjoyed the show today. And stay safe wherever you are. Love you all. And take care. Okay? It's always fun to do this show live from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Bye, everyone.